Yo yo yo, it's Echo! Welcome to the fourth installment of my sketchbook tour video series. Today we are going to be going through this binder. There really isn't much of an order to this one, it's mostly 2010 through 2012. I've got stuff from high school through university, so this one's a little bit all over the place. Pause the video, because cool stuff is happening and I want to tell you about it real quick. On Sunday, May 22nd, I will be at the Great American Debate. On June 2nd through the 5th, I will be at Phoenix Comicon. On June 21st, I will be at the Amazing Tour is Not on Fire, and on June 23rd through the 25th, I will be at VidCon. 2016, hell yeah! I'll be putting an explanation of what these events are and where they will be down in the description. If you are going to any of these events and you happen to see my face, please come say hi. Especially at VidCon, because this is my first one. We can be awkward potatoes together, it'll be great. We'll get a selfie, it'll be fun! Unpause. But without further ado, let us look inside this ridiculous collection of artwork. Today I'm going to be going through a bunch of the sketches in the profile binder, and I call it that because there is this random profile on the front page. That's not a page, that's a cover. Get your facts right, Echo. Opening the book now, it's happening! I'm gonna start with what I've got in the front pocket. These are just a bunch of images that I traced because there were little things that I liked about them. In this one I had liked the shape of the eye, here was another one that I liked the shape of the eye. In this one I was very impressed by the drawing of these wrinkles. I thought this was a fantastic drawing of a hand, so I wanted to document it and kind of save it. Sometimes when I see things that I like, I will trace them as a way of documenting them in my brain. I feel like it helps me learn how to replicate those styles. Next one. This was a drawing that I did of a girl in a poncho. With this one, I was making up anatomy in high school, and I had imagined kind of like a being with two hearts and a black hole for a stomach. I drew this way before I had any idea what Doctor Who was, but now that I'm looking back on it, all I can think of is Doctor Who, because Time Lords have two hearts. I am a loser. This, and this were tracings from things that I found online that I really liked. I want to say this one was from Fiji Cats, which was a very old webcomic that I used to follow when I was in high school, but I honestly can't remember. This is an alien on a flying saucer. I don't know why he's not inside of it instead of riding on top of it, but, you know, maybe it's his personal choice. For a brief period in time, I was listening to Blood on the Dance Floor, kind of ironically, and this specific drawing was inspired by the emo and punk youth subcultures, along with that song, apparently on 8/11/10. This is another drawing that I did the exact same day, and I believe I was just trying to put a face to this one. Bum, 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 bum. These are some tattoo drawings that I was doing for a friend of mine. She wanted kind of a trinity flower, so I decided to give her both flat two-dimensional flowers as well as a three-dimensional flower, and then let her choose which one she wanted. Also, if you need a tattoo designed, I am a freelance illustrator. Yeah, self-promo. Email me. Page turning. At this point, I was kind of designing clothing, but not really. It was a little bit inspired by punk and emo fashion, because I'm just a fashionista like that. With this one, I just wanted to make a jacket that had as many buckles as was humanly possible, and then with this one, I was actually planning to take a pair of the black slacks that I had from my work and converting them into a cooler pair of pants. Violent page turn. I drew this one shortly after hearing Carolina Lyre's Show Me What I'm Looking For the first time. Whenever I felt absolutely crushed, I would listen to that song because it's just so beautiful. This was yet again me branching out into fashion design. For me, the idea of fashion design was just drawing the clothes that you really wanted to exist. Next page. When I was in high school, there was a school store that we had to run, and part of our job was to make t-shirts. So I actually made these silhouettes to be cut out of vinyl and heat pressed onto t-shirts. Fish, jellyfish, fish, jellyfish, jellyfish, jellyfish. That's a terribly old reference. If anyone knows what that's from, please put it in the comment section so I don't feel so alone. Gentle page turn. These were two more silhouette designs that I had also planned for t-shirts. This one was actually inspired by trilobites, which I believe are fossils of ocean creatures. Extinct marine arthropods, according to Google. Isn't that pleasant? And then over here, this was actually the face of a character that I was designing a comic around vegetarianism. It's strange, I know. Next page. This is a flea. Getting ready to eat your soul. Smash it with a hammer! This one was actually inspired by some CD cover art that I saw years ago while passing through Walmart. Essentially, it's kind of like a half-robotic, half-organic human kind of thing. Let's continue. Someone had asked me to make a couple sketches of like little angels, so I went ahead and I made 4, and then I kind of started sketching out basic body framework for them. Faces, bodies, And then I believe this was kind of like a general representation of what they would look like. And then over here we have the grammar master. I used to have this one friend in high school who was just an absolute jerk about grammar and spelling. So being the person that I am, I actually took him and turned him into a comic character called the Grammar Master. I have your lollipop. You're so cute. Halt, that's an improper use of grammar. Timmy! Beautiful morbid humor. In this one, I was kind of trying to make a prehistoric looking dinosaur that would be from another planet. So like a cross between a dinosaur and an alien. With this one, I was continuing the theme of prehistoric alien, but I was doing this one while in a vehicle. And any of the artists out there who have tried to do this know how incredibly difficult it is to draw and have a steady hand in a moving vehicle. Probably one of the more difficult things I've tried to do as an artist. I'm excited for this one. Oh, exciting! These drawings were actually banned from the county fair. Back in my hometown, I used to enter almost every category in the county fair in terms of art. And one year I didn't have enough, so I just kind of grabbed some from a pile, including these ones, and I don't know why it didn't even faze me that these would be banned for content. My hometown is very conservative. I don't know what the heck I was thinking. This one was meant to be kind of a tragic drawing of a small character who was, in a way, trapped on a checkerboard floor. Essentially, he can jump off of the checkerboard floor and find out what happens. He can end himself with the noose, or he can just wait and eventually choose one of the two anyway. Very tragic, very morbid, like a lot of my artwork. Now, the pack of gel pens that I used to get to fill in all of these dark spots and make all of this like really dark contrasting artwork always came with more colors than just black, so I would end up with this massive collection of gel pens that I would never use. So the main point of this one was actually to try and get rid of one of the blue pens. I don't remember the intention behind the phrase few reason, but it may have been something that I read online. I honestly don't remember. I kind of just wanted this one to be very cluttered and reminiscent of anime. This is once again just me trying to use up the pens that I would otherwise never use. With this one I didn't even bother filling it in because you could see the lines so clearly that it just wasn't even worth it. I'm sorry if I'm about to say this wrong, but this one was actually inspired by Kakashi from Naruto, just a little bit. Yet another example of me trying to make use of these pens that I would otherwise never use. Purple, blue, and red. With this one I think I was trying to kind of draw like a genderless anime character, but I almost feel like I gave up partway and just added more feminine features. I can't remember. This was like 6 years ago. This one I drew around Halloween. It was inspired by a really cool image that I found on DeviantArt, and I also wanted to try and make use of these two really cool purple pens that I had, and I really want these pants. This one was inspired by Motion City Soundtrack's The Future Freaks Me Out. It's a really awesome song, and it's one of my favorites. So this is actually a song lyric from that. I rock too fast for love and footloose in my Velcro shoes. With this one I was just trying to figure out how to draw the face of a dragon because it's actually a very complicated thing to do. And then over here this is just kind of a self-portrait scribble that I did in high school. And then here we're breaking into some of the drawings that I did while I was going to my university. I was taking a drawing class and we were required to fill out these sketchbooks with drawings, so naturally the first thing that I did was draw a cartoon because that's the kind of drawing that I'm into. Then I decided to go ahead and try something a little bit more realistic, so I drew a girl and a fish, to which my professor responded, "No smudging." I had drawn a silhouette with graphite, I had drawn a bunch of strange shapes in pen, I had done some character designs for a dust mite, and I had planned out some drawings for a stop-motion animation. At that point, he told me that the intention of the sketchbooks was actually to draw real-life objects. So I started drawing real-life objects with my own personal spin on it. So here I drew a water bottle with a cap that fell off, and here I drew a lamp looking at a cup. It was at this point that I kind of started worrying that my teacher was going to hate me if I didn't just draw boring still life, so I kind of switched to drawing boring still life. So here we have my view from a hammock in the courtyard of my dorm room, and here we have a cell phone, a spray bottle, a pumpkin, and a stool from the classroom. Here we have a computer mouse, a cover from one of the computer fans in the classroom, a cup, a pile of candles, a USB, a salt shaker, a fork, I love you, and a bunch of paper balls. Since I was one of the few people in the classroom who actually had an art background, I felt like I wasn't learning as much as I could have, so I decided to crinkle up some paper balls and draw them as a little bit of a challenge. It's actually quite challenging. Here we have an upside down pair of sunglasses that was on someone's desk, and I tried to draw them before they picked them up. And then over here, I used to have a hamburger phone, like the one from Juno. So at some point around Halloween, I tried to draw it. I had realized that this very geometric and guideline-based style was what the professor was looking for, so I went ahead and I drew all of my sketches with this very geometric style. I tried to draw it where you could very clearly see the foundation work of all of these drawings. Here I was just drawing an outlet and a USB, and naturally I could not resist turning him into a little robot. Here I was trying to draw a crystal ball and a spoon that I don't love. And then on the next page, I decided to try and draw something a little bit more organic. People! This was actually another classmate in my drawing class drawing. She was one of the tallest students and I wanted to draw her. And then with these, I was yet again trying to just figure out profiles, because profiles are one of the hardest things I've ever had to draw. I'm learning. With this one I had found a colored pencil and decided to try and draw a shoe, a high heel specifically, as you can tell. And then a glorious teapot. What makes it glorious, I don't know. This is my contact lens case, and this is me trying to draw a sphere. And then here I drew a very uncomfortable looking chair. I would not sit in that chair. One of the things that we had to do in this class was that we had to pick a complex object to draw, and then we would draw that one object for the rest of the entire semester. One of my suggestions for what I was going to draw would have been a corkscrew, but it was rejected, so I just decided to sketch it anyway. The complex object that I ended up with was actually a drawing compass, and the final drawing for that semester that I ended up with has actually gotten me a job before. This crazy torture device looking thing is actually an apple corer. They're kind of useful if you make a lot of pies. Love me some pie. With this one I was planning to replicate one of my favorite optical illusions, and then here I was planning out some basic ideas for a self-portrait image that I was making for DeviantArt. I'll show you the final image here. These tiny sketches ended up being this. With these ones I had had a very strange dream about a giant snake that was protecting a little girl who was stranded in the desert. So I decided to call it the Snake Guardian, but I just kind of wanted to draw some sketches so that I wouldn't forget it. These were some of the miniature character designs that I did for a comic called Bob, which will be linked in the description. It's very old, but it's a comic that I actually finished. I drew this one because I was in the Phoenix area, which means that, you know, I haven't seen snow in like 3 years, and sometimes I miss it. My hometown was actually cold enough to just barely get a couple inches of snow. With these ones, I felt like I had finally developed a style that I could officially call my own, so I just did a couple scribbles in that style so that I wouldn't forget it. Because you never know, you spend years developing a style, you might forget. And then just when you think all the crazy geometric stuff is over, there's a pigeon! Geometric pigeon. At one point I was planning to make a unicorn plush doll for a friend of mine who is absolutely obsessed with unicorns, and these were some sketches of the pattern that I was planning to use. At one point I had an idea for a comic about two germs that lived on the back of a ladybug, and this was one of those characters. These are just some scribbles that I did on the back of some homework. Here we have some robots, and then here we have some body proportion practice. This one was actually a scribble I made for a robot's face, but I realized I didn't draw a body for it, so I put, "Please help, I can't move." Poor little robot. With this one, I was upset about something. I honestly don't remember what. So as you can see, I put, "I love math. Math doesn't lie." I really do love math, and a big part of the reason that I love math so much is that it's not subjective. Math is one of the most absolute representations of existence. But I'm crazy. Here I was trying to draw some mutated, creepy figures. I want to say that I had just seen a video game that had some really beautifully mutated creatures, so I just wanted to try and replicate that. This was a face that I drew on a paper plate while I was at school, but I wanted to keep it because I thought the symmetry was really beautiful, and I really do like some of these piercings. I went to a very conservative high school, and there were certain behaviors and ideas that I felt were being forcibly spoon-fed to a lot of the students, and that maybe I didn't necessarily agree with, but because I'm not the kind of person to act out, I would instead draw my feelings. Consider this my act of teenage rebellion. So as you can see, this box labeled pure is pouring directly into her brain, and her arms are restrained, so there's nothing she can do about it. I think I was also trying to capture the idea of forcing yourself to be happy when you just aren't. This one was actually a continuation of this paper plate drawing. I was trying to carry over the multiple piercing idea from the last illustration with the cheek piercing, the eyebrow piercings, the multiple ear piercings, and the lip rings, as well as this nose ring, which kind of just looks like a shadow, but it is another piercing. With this eye, the main point in me drawing it was actually to try and make realistic looking piercings within the skin, but they actually just look like they're too small. With these, I actually had just seen some really cool looking ear bars. These ones are extremely old. This was one of the first commissioned illustrations that I had ever done. When I was going to high school, there was a farmer who had come in with a giant sheet of metal, and he wanted it to be cut into a gate. He wanted this massive silhouette of elk and deer and mountains and clouds, but when I was drawing it, I had to be extremely careful to make sure that every dark figure connected. That way, when the white parts were cut out and dropped out, everything else would hold together. It was a beautifully complex illustration, and I loved doing it. These two drawings were actually never finished. I wanted to do something complex with color. This one was kind of inspired by the idea of cookies and cream, whereas she was inspired by strawberries. Certain parts of her hair were going to be red and green, and then certain parts of her dress as well, whereas this one was mostly going to be black and white. I know it's kind of hard to see, but the reason that I wrote the harp, the bass, and the violin was because I wanted to make their poses slightly reminiscent of playing instruments. There was meant to be a third one, but I had also not finished that one. I feel like I've got to throw up a little bit of a content warning because this is a little bit dark. This was actually a storyboard that I made for a recreation animation of the Do You Want to Build a Snowman song from Frozen called Will You Help Me Hide a Body? Essentially, if you actually go through it, you'll see that it's a little girl asking her older sister to help her hide a body because the body is leaking blood everywhere. But instead of ending the same way that the original Frozen has it end, the girl actually comes out and you realize that the body is actually of a child abuser. You actually see her older sister and she comes out with a black eye. I'll help you hide the body. Over here I tried to draw a demonic teddy bear. How do you draw hatred and anger? I actually drew these two while I was waiting for an interview for one of my finals. We have a very happy mouse and a very impatient teddy bear. I actually ended up digitally coloring these, so if you want to see the full images, then you can click the link to my DeviantArt down below. With these ones I felt like I had finally developed a style that I could actually call my own, so I was just kind of experimenting with it. These were yet again 2 character sketches for a vague comic idea that I'd had. There was also a third character, but he's not in this book for some reason. And finally the last page. This was just yet again me continuing in what I would call my style and trying to draw a girl that I imagined would have red hair and freckles. With this one I was kind of trying to draw a little bit more of the body, and then here we have a bunch of the pages from the sketchbook that I had for my drawing class. The sketchbook that we were required to use for our drawing course was actually slightly larger than 8.5 by 11, so I wasn't able to fit all of them in this page without cutting them down. So these are the pages that I couldn't cut down without losing part of the artwork. I decided to play industrial designer and try and make a chair. For this one I had drawn a push pin in a bunch of different directions, and then I realized it kind of just looked like a bunch of flying push pins, so I drew clouds around it. These are just some more geometric drawings of the tools in my art box. Here I was practicing drawing planes and circles, and this is the hallway that I was wading in to take my final. This is a script-driven storyboard for a children's book called Granny-Faced Granny. It's about an old woman who learns how to ask nicely after a raccoon breaks into her house and makes a massive mess. These sketches were actually inspired by another one of my favorite artists, Michael Gagna. I cannot say his last name for the life of me, but if you have never heard of him, and few people have, I recommend that you look him up just because his artwork is absolutely beautiful. These are more sketches inspired by his style. I don't know what I am, but I think I am a thing. Sometimes I feel big. Sometimes I feel small, and sometimes I feel like I am nothing at all. This is actually a sketch of my professor because he had a very strange habit of looming over people while they were drawing. And then the last page in this is kind of just like a girl growing out of a flower. I did not put a lot of time into that one. This is really not good paper. Okay, cool. Magic. You made it to the end. 200 awesome points. For you, my friend. If this is the first of my sketchbook tour videos that you're seeing, please remember that I have 3 more before this one. So if you enjoy my ridiculous art style, then there's a good chance you'll like one of these videos as well. If there was even like one drawing in this that you liked, please like the video because it really does help a lot. That is it. I'm gonna call it the end. Boom. Magic. And it is over. Watcha. Okay, cool. You enjoy your life because it is the life worth living. Bye. Say hi to me at VidCon.